Sorry, we were waiting for a few people to join, but I think we are good to go. So once again, a very good evening and good morning to the global team who have joined from different parts of the globe. We welcome you to our Griffith Foods webinar, Emerging Needs of Prepared Meals. So in this session, we are going to discuss, we're going to talk, we're going to see what are the rising needs of meal kits, which we commonly use it as do-it-yourself, ready to eat meals, which can be prepared in minutes. So before we start, and we have this great evening ahead for more than 1.5 hour session, we should keep few things in mind. We would request all the audience to keep your mic on mute and disable your videos. Please use your phones to avoid any kind of disturbance for you. In case you have any questions, there is a Q&A icon on the bottom, please, which is on the bottom of the taskbar. You can write your question. Please write your name, the question, and whom you would like to address. We will give you the answers in the due course of the time, as and where we proceed with the webinar. Should you have any clarification, or if you are unable to see or connect anything, the team is here, and we have replied to you through our and mailed you across our hotline number here, so you can connect back us and we can help you out. However, this number will be displayed in the subsequent slides also. So yes, moving ahead, that's how we are going to showcase you for the next 1.5 hours. So we will start with a surprise element, and then we move to our global perspective, what's happening across the world in terms of, we will share with you insights on the prepared meals. Followed by, we will come back closer to our home ground and we will see what's happening in India, Middle East. And we have a lot of people who joined in from Middle East too. So that would give them a perspective what's happening in the meal kits. Then the most important session is a panel discussion, and we will start with the panel discussion, so you all will get a flair of what is happening today's time and what is ahead also, and then we conclude it. That's how we have structured it. So yes, that is what you're going to see ahead. So here is something for you all. Once again, a very welcome to each and everyone. I am, and I didn't introduce myself earlier, I would introduce right now. I am Samhita Barman, and I head the marketing for Griffith Foods India Middle East. And today I will be your MC, so you can always ask me any questions or any doubts that you have. So moving ahead, so we have Mr. Bo Che, who's joined us from Chicago and has been one of our esteemed colleague. He's a director of global food service marketing and insights at Griffith Foods. He's going to take us through what's happening across the world in terms of the prepared meals, but with a more focus towards meal kits. And this will give you a perspective what's happening towards the do-it-yourself. So over to Bo.
Hi, good evening, team. Again, glad to be here. Have a lot of great insights to share. Relative to the meal kit category, I was doing a lot of research in preparation for this webinar, and just from a sizing perspective, if you consider the scope and the magnitude of meal kits and prepared meals, current market size for the category is around $6 billion. And by 2027, it's forecast to reach $20 billion. I mean, that's a really big number if you compare where we were, where the meal kit category started, to where we are now. So that being said, when it comes to some of the drivers, some of the kind of rationale behind why meal kits are resonating with consumers, I was able to work with Samita to put together this presentation to talk through an overview of what's happening in this space, why it's really relevant to consumers, especially now given COVID-19. You know, the whole idea of staying home, cooking at home, it's just exploded when it comes to not being able to have as many options when it comes to eating out. And then from there, we'll talk through some of the evolution of meal kits based on where we started, where we're going, and then where we're headed. And then from there, we'll talk through some general global themes that we're seeing when it comes to consumer drivers, different flavors, and where we see the overall category going as we head into the remainder of the year. So that being said, like Samita mentioned, we will be taking questions. If you have any questions, just please enter in the chat. We'll keep an eye on the questions and we'll answer them accordingly. So that being said, Samita, if you want to go next slide, please. All right, so when it comes to meal kits, right, the three main themes that have really emerged to the top when it comes to why meal kits make sense in the current day and age, there's three really big key themes that really make the category resonate with consumers. The first one is convenience, right? When you look at a meal kit, all the ingredients, all the instructions are already there. They're already prefabricated. They come delivered to your door, or you can pick them up at your local supermarket. So it's really a fail-proof option when it comes to having the ability to cook a meal, like Samita mentioned, in a matter of minutes, right? Whether you're cooking on a stove or whether you're putting it in the microwave, it's a really simple solution. They're also trendy and authentic. A lot of the meal kits that are currently sold feature really ethnic, exotic ingredients that are not necessarily hard to find, but they may be one-time use type of products. They're often organic and locally sourced in nature too. So there's a huge sustainability story when it comes to the idea of the ingredients that go into a meal kit. And then last but not least, meal kits are perfectly portioned. You know, depending on the size of meal kit, if you're ordering a meal kit or picking up a meal kit for a family of 2, family of 4, family of 6, everything is designed to be perfectly portioned. So that reduces, again, the idea of food waste, which again is another really positive note when it comes to meal kits in general. All right, so when it comes to other key drivers, other key motivators when it comes to meal kits, flavor is number one. So according to a survey that Datassential, a market research firm that studies menus based in Chicago, commissioned, they analyzed the meal kits, right? The meal kit category. They wanted to understand what consumers really like when it comes to this category. And then at the very top, you know, like we talk about flavor, when it comes to meal kits, it allows consumers the ability to try new things that they never thought they could make at home. So again, when you go to a restaurant, you want to have craveable food. And since we can't go to restaurants at the current moment, they want to replicate those experiences that they have in the restaurant, but have it in a home setting environment. Other key verbatims that really rose to the top is that it makes dinners easy to plan for the week, right? It really makes it kind of something not to think about. You just plan in advance and then the food comes to you and then you just simply prepare it. It also increases the variety of foods that you eat at home. Again, with all the ethnic flavors that are out there, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides, the variety of foods that are offered through meal kits are just astounding. Other interesting callouts are it allows consumers to work with new and interesting ingredients. It also helps teach new cooking skills, which I thought was really interesting. And it also helps people improve their current cooking skills as well too. And then last but not least, meal kits are generally seen as a better value. And you think about it, all the components are already measured out, they're already prepackaged, they're already pre-portioned. So you're not having to buy a whole jar of za'atar spice, a whole jar of cumin, which will sit into your cabinet for about a year and expire. So that being said, it's seen as generally a better value overall versus buying everything separately at a grocery store. So like we mentioned earlier, meal kits generally tend to offer a wide variety of global dishes and ingredients. And when it comes to positioning meal kits, when it relates to applications, generally speaking, all the dishes that are prepared within the meal kit category either feature two paths. The first path is showcasing traditional dishes, and the second path is showcasing creative spins on comfort classics, for example, right? So based on some menu analysis that we did, looking at key global dishes and ingredients ranked by incidence, if you bucket the meal kits into specific ethnic cuisine types, if you're looking at the Asian category specifically, flavors such as sriracha, miso, teriyaki, ingredients such as udon, ramen, and kimchi really rise to the top, I guess, based on how many times these ingredients are featured in the meal kit category. In the Mexican and Latin category, flavors such as salsa, chipotle, chorizo, dishes such as tacos, enchiladas, and quesadillas are really popular. And then in the Mediterranean category, flavors such as pesto, feta, tahini, dishes such as gnocchi, panzanella salads are really popular. And then rounding out the list with Middle Eastern and Indian, flavors such as curry, za'atar, ingredients such as tabbouleh, dishes such as kebabs and hummus are really popular. So these are just some details to consider when it relates to all the meal kit types that you guys could create from an operator standpoint. So based on what consumers really like, these are some key flavors that are opportunistic. All right, so going a bit further when it comes to the evolution of meal kits, if you go next slide, please. We're breaking down the category as it relates to kind of the life cycle of meal kits into three phases. We're currently in phase 3 right now, and we'll talk a bit about phase 4 and what that looks like a little bit later. But when it comes to the first phase of meal kits, we're calling this evolution meal kit 1.0. It's when it actually came and exploded onto the scene. If you look at the history of meal kits, it's generally a really young category starting in 2012. And when the category of meal kits launched with Blue Apron, you had other players like HelloFresh and Plated literally popping up within a mere matter of months. So the whole category is proliferated, right? You started at kind of a $0 category. It's grown from 2012 to now $6 billion, and in 2027 to 20 billion. There's a huge trajectory of growth. And when it comes to the meal kit and prepared meal category, there's a wide variety of operators that exist that meet the needs of various consumer diets and preferences, right? You have meal kits such as Purple Carrot, which is all about vegetarian, vegan food. Freshly is another really new meal kit operator that focuses on nutrition. All the prepackaged meals, which are in trays, are all produced and developed to meet certain caloric intake needs, different dietary restrictions. There's a new meal kit that came to the scene called Factor as well. It's all about fitness enthusiasts. So if you're a fitness junkie, you're going to have meals that are high protein, low carbohydrate. And that meal kit company is all about health and wellness. All right, so the next evolution of meal kits is called Meal Kits 2.0. And this is all about convenience. So with Meal Kits 1.0, you generally see that category as being a delivery-only type of model. But with Meal Kits 2.0, what's really interesting about this category specifically is that you're seeing meal kits evolve from the delivery-only category into supermarkets or retail type of outlets. So based on the need for convenience, right, you go to the grocery store, you go to a retail store to pick up toiletry, you go to pick up any sort of supplies. Why not pick up dinner as well, right? You have the ability to peruse, to kind of look at what you're potentially going to have for dinner, which is another really neat benefit of having your meal kits displayed in a retail type of setting. So you've seen a whole bunch of retailers such as Walmart, Amazon with Whole Foods, Publix, either launch their own private brands of meal kits or acquire different companies such as HelloFresh and Kroger, Home Chef and Kroger, I apologize, to enter into the meal kit category. And another really great benefit when it comes to meal kits in supermarkets or prepared meals in supermarkets is that you don't have to tie in consumers to subscriptions, right? A consumer can just walk in, pick up the meal kit and go home without any strings attached. You're not tied in to any sort of programs. All right, next slide. And then the most recent evolution of meal kits, we're calling this Meal Kit 3.0, is given COVID and given the inability for consumers to dine in, to have waiter service at restaurants, it's really put a big dent in food service as a whole. So that being said, you have a lot of operators becoming very creative in a very short amount of time. They're pivoting, right? They're only relying right now on delivery. So that being said, what else can they do? So you have a lot of top restaurant chains, a lot of independent restaurants kind of pivoting their operations to offer kind of DIY meal kits. So these meal kits are generally served through like either a pickup model or delivery through your biggest players. And they're meant to feed between 4 to 6 people. Like I mentioned, over a dozen chains have offered this style of service. They have basic proteins, different side dishes, and a lot of sauces that really are relevant to the brand that really makes them kind of unique. So that being said, when it comes to some major chains that have entered the space, you have Taco Bell, which is a global QSR player with their DIY taco kit. You have taco shells, soft flour tortillas, as well as your proteins, all the sauces. If you're looking to have breakfast for dinner, you can go to Denny's and you have their pancakes, hash brown waffles, eggs, again, delivered on demand. Boston Market, comfort food classics. And then the last restaurant feature is Cracker Barrel, which is a southern US chain. If your family's in the mood for fried chicken that night, you can get fried chicken with all the fixins, gravies, biscuits, greens, roasted carrots. So it offers a really unique kind of way to get that restaurant experience, but have it served at home and have it almost kind of semi-customized, which is quite interesting of a value proposition. All right, so moving on to global meal kit trends. Again, we're going to keep on the theme of what's happening right now, which is restaurants and retailers. So we'll profile kind of what's happening in the space, why it's relevant, and kind of what's going on and what you can consider from an operator standpoint. And again, the intent of this webinar is to inspire you guys, to make sure that you guys have some idea of what's happening in the space. Just because it's a really dynamic category, there's a lot of change, and there's a lot of kind of need to keep up with what's happening. So that being said, we do have a lot of examples that are more global in nature, but it's really irrelevant based on kind of what's happening, picking and choosing what makes sense. So the idea of restaurants pivoting to meal kits has taken off, right? Again, diversifying offerings, it's offering new revenue streams. So I really like this example that's on the screen. It's an example from Fuchsia Urban Thai. It's a restaurant chain based in the UAE, and it offered this Thai tater tot cooking kits, which is meant for kids to make at home during the quarantine. So think about fully loaded tater tots with Thai flavors, right? You take the meal kit home, you heat the tater tots up, and you have your kids pour sauce, garnish it any way they want, and they have a fully fleshed out kind of a restaurant dish with the ability to have it kind of interactive and playful as well too. All right, some other notable examples. We have Marks and Spencer, which is a UK-based retailer. They launched a Middle Eastern-inspired squash and bean stew. This product features mixed beans, apricots, served with brown basmati rice. It's vegan, it's gluten-free, it sounds absolutely delicious. The next example is from Yoshinoya, which is a global chain. They have about 2,000 locations globally. They have a home kitchen noodle kit. It's kind of like a sukiyaki hot pot style of service where you have a broth. You can pick your choice of proteins at the restaurant, whether it's beef, chicken, or pork, or even vegetarian options. You have different seasonings and different add-ins that you can take home, heat it on the stove, throw your meat in, throw your noodles in. You have a fully fleshed out kind of Yoshinoya experience at home. And the last concept's from Steakhouse, which is a chain based out of Saudi Arabia. They have a butcher shop box, and this is like a steakhouse concept where they butcher their own steaks in-house. They have their own hand-formed burgers. So as a consumer, you can order any sort of protein that they currently produce in-house, and you can purchase all the side dishes, all the spices, seasonings that go into kind of a restaurant-style meal. And then you take it home to prepare. You throw it on the barbecue, you can throw it on the grill, and have a really hot, fresh kind of in-restaurant experience at home, which is quite nice. So creating that steakhouse experience through the butcher shop box is a really unique value proposition. All right, so looking inside the trend, kind of why this is more relevant, more so than ever right now, given COVID. Like, why do meal kits resonate with consumers, right? So we talked about what has happened in the past based on the overall category, but looking like right now, these are three key themes that have emerged based on our research. So the biggest benefit when it comes to looking inside the meal kit trend, given the COVID-19 landscape, is that it's a big time saver, right? If you're looking at restaurants specifically, you have the ability to, again, have that nearly ready to make meal kit experience versus leveraging like a meal kit component style of assembly where you're cooking things from scratch, right? It really saves all the time where you're just taking the food home, you're putting it into an oven, you're putting it into a microwave, and you can get like a meal in minutes. So again, it's a really great way to pivot to save consumers even more time versus your traditional meal kit. You can add a lot of value beyond food. So if you look at the chains that we profiled, a lot of the partners that we're kind of working with have offered not only the meals, but they're bundling the meals into various experiences as well. You think about food as entertainment. Not only do you have the food, but you can offer like a Netflix bundle where you have a free movie download or any other activity that can be paired with the food. So from there, you can create a full experience for your family. It keeps the kids entertained, it keeps them fed. It's a win-win for everybody. And then the last detail is all about social engagement. You know, many operators that we profiled and that we will be talking about, they want to encourage consumers to take pictures of the food, to share them on social media, to show preparation hacks, to show how they customized or improved on the recipes, right? So given that we aren't able to travel right now, and given that there's not very many fun activities to do, the idea of sharing your food, that's the only social experience that we have right now that's really fun in nature. So restaurants are capitalizing on this trend. So on the very right-hand side of your screen, you have an example from a restaurant chain called Cha Cha Suki and Barbecue. It's their raw cha ready to cook sukiyaki. And if you're not familiar with sukiyaki, it's kind of like a hot pot type of service style where you have a pot of broth or hot water and you dip your meat, you dip your vegetables in the hot broth, you cook it, and you dip it into a sauce, and then you eat it. So they offer a sukiyaki style of meal kit, and they also have a barbecue kit version of that sukiyaki meal kit as well too. So with that version, you actually have the raw meat that's marinated, and then you put it on the grill and you dip it in your sauce, and then you eat it. So if you look at the packaging on the screen, it's actually quite nice. You have the proteins, they're all marinated, they're all individually packed, and then you also have your sauces as well. They're all individually packed, they're all wrapped, and then again, it makes it really simple. It's clean. You open it up and you're ready to cook and eat. All right, let's look at some regional trends. Where is this really happening around the world? So if we're looking at India, right, versus kind of what we talked about in the traditional meal kit sense where you're actually having to have the components put together, cooked. With regards to India, there's a big prevalence of meal kits that are fully assembled in tray formats that consumers then will take home and then either microwave or put into the oven. So based on the consumer demands, you know, cooking versus throwing something into the microwave or oven, that's definitely the main desire when it comes to Indian consumers. When it comes to Australia, there's a big grill your own or grill, culture out there. So grill your own burger kits have been really blowing up within the fast casual space. If you're looking at Latin America, full service restaurants are primarily leveraging this trend with prepare at home versions of signature meals. And this is generally something we see happening in Brazil and Mexico. Within the Middle East, this trend is featured both at limited service and full service restaurants in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia. So this seems like it's more of a generally accepted style of service. And then in North America, casual dining restaurants and fast casual restaurants are rolling out through delivery-friendly platforms, these meal kits that offer a wide range of occasions to celebrate, such as date nights, backyard grilling, or any other service style. All right, so the last slide, right, it talks about where we're headed. If you can click ahead, please. So where are we headed within the meal kit category? What's next, right? So based on some of the preliminary research that we're conducting right now, we want to keep a pulse on what's happening in the future. So one of the biggest trends and one of the biggest consumer preferences when it comes to dining out overall is the ability to customize. So looking at ways to have the customizable experience, but offer it through any sort of prepared meals or meal kits is going to be the future of what will really resonate with consumers going forward, right? So again, having chains encourage restaurant patrons to create their own signature dishes or menus is going to be something that's really popular. We're already starting to see some chains do that in the US. Secondly, the idea of personalized and lifestyle-focused meal kits will become really popular. So the idea of diet-driven menu offerings that will help patrons stay committed to living a healthier lifestyle will be really popular, right? If you're on a keto diet, paleo, going to a restaurant that has those offerings will make you want to go back. If you obviously don't have those restaurant offerings or offerings at your restaurant, patrons won't go there. There's a huge veto vote that happens when it comes to folks with certain dietary restrictions. You have a big chain called Chipotle. I'm sure you're familiar with Chipotle, but they recently launched a whole line of lifestyle bowls. These bowls are meant to suit the needs of folks that have Whole30 diets, paleo diets, keto restrictions, as well as people that generally want to eat more protein, right? So the ability to have these bowls customized on demand will really help consumers make that decision relatively simply. And then the last detail we want to note is that, what will stick when it comes to restaurants when they open up back up again. We understand that not all meal kits will likely remain on menus. But that being said, though, the idea of diversifying menus to offer meal kits has really made it a profitable kind of value proposition for restaurant operators. So we're going to see some of these themes stick as an extension of catering. So you're going to start seeing ideas like burger boxes, which are really popular right now. They're really successful, stay on menus post-COVID. Even ideas such as happy hour kits as well, too, having full bottles of alcohol, having all the mixers, having all the garnishes on the side. Those have become really popular mainstays within the meal kit category. So these are three really big themes that we're keeping an eye on. And once we have more information, I'm sure we'll share it with you all. All right, so again, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, just please enter them into the chat box and we'll address them accordingly.
Thank you, Bo. I believe it was very, very inspiring. We get to see how the global market is responding, and this is here to stay. Thank you. And for the audience, if you all have any questions, Bo is here for the next few, for the next 1.5 hours. You can put your questions in the QA questions, and he'll be happy to take it up. So, moving ahead. Okay, so I will be now taking ahead on the trends and the insights for meal kit, ready to eat for both India and the GCC market or the Middle East market. So we'll see how the importance is growing. Okay, so I get to see a question from Ritesh Kumar for the 2-tier and the 3-tier questions, which we will take it up soon. Okay, so with the COVID impact, how is the consumer sentiments changing? The consumer sentiments has been changing, and we've seen that more than 51% of consumers have completely restricted themselves in visiting the restaurants, whether it be, of course, we are all aware of India, but that goes for the Middle East also. So of course, because of the known fact that stay at home. How has the purchase shifted? Now we've seen that most of us have shifted towards more on the online purchase instead of going and picking it up from the retail outlets. And online purchase, when I mean, is not only on the food aggregators part, but also on the e-commerce bit. And these are the top ones where the online purchase, the purchase shift has happened. Starting with food and beverage, where 24% of the consumers have made a shift, followed by clothing, of course, pharmaceutical to be there, and certain amount on services and personal care. Out of this, interestingly, where we see a lot of people have now moved on the e-commerce platforms as food aggregate, food online partners to bring in more food options at home. Out of that, 60% consumers look for convenient and basic food solutions. So whatever purchase has been made is looking in for what they can go into, get it more conveniently, and which brings in convenience on the table. Okay, so moving ahead, yes, it is the next growth engine that we see, and it is going to stay. It is not that because of today, but it is also there to be there for the future too. And when we see that, of course, as compared to global, and this is where we see the market size it is as compared to global. Middle East is growing at 4.6% CAGR, and India is really growing by 10%. So huge opportunities in terms of the prepared meal kits market here. Okay, so now, like my colleague Bo has mentioned that there are two segments, and I would also like to take you through the two segments. Is we will first speak on the DIY meal kits, DIY or meal kits as you say, and what is impact, what has been there on the impact front. If you see that more than 44% of people are now buying more prepared meals in terms of meal kits or any kind of prepared meals, because they know that brings in convenience, mostly their home, and they would like to stay in touch with the common food or the comfortable food. Whereas for Middle East is 42% of consumers are now switching to prepared meals and meal kits as compared to what they were doing previously. There has been an increased spending, of course, and therefore that has given rise to an increased spending, and they don't mind on spending a little bit on the premium meal kits because they believe that that would bring in hygiene factor and also the health aspect. So 48% of Indian consumers demand for premium meal kits. Demand for premium meal kits, and compared to Middle East is 36%. While people are now moving towards more usage of the prepared meals or meal kits, but they don't mind in spending on premium meal kits, and 48% of Indian consumers demand for premium meal kits, whereas in Middle East is 36%, which is because of the factor is that it brings in more hygiene factor. It also brings in the fact that it's healthy, and the fact is that it can be made at home. Okay, so now going ahead is that why there has been a rise in the meal kit, because now there is a new relationship with cooking. While you stay at home, you would like to cook so that you feel you are guilt-free, but at the same time you want that comfort. So that is what it is growing, and people and today's consumers still today rely on the top brands. Here are a few of the examples where if you see the signature, the chefs are bringing their signature recipes on the table, wherein today you can make those signature recipes at home. And few examples in India and Middle East are seen. Okay. So here are the examples. Moving ahead is definitely convenience is the key. Ready to heat. What is happening there? That's the new normal. Today, the new normal is more family time, less outing, and work from home. Therefore, more than 60% consumers in India look for ready to heat meals, and more than 65% consumers in Middle East look for the ready to heat meal. In the past one and a half years, there has been more than 152 launches that happened in India in terms of the ready-to-eat meals, whereas in Middle East it has been 93. So huge opportunity to grab. So what has been the trend while going ahead with these ready-to-eat meals? It's basically back to basic. People are looking for more comfort food with which they can relate to, or the popular dishes. So here, if you see in India, most of them are like what examples we've shown, and there are more like veg biryani from Moms, and then sabudana khichdi from Quick Food, and of course Chinese being the prevalent one is which has been launched by Tata Q. Middle East also similar things where we see a lot of expats which are from India looks out for that kind of a comfort food, and therefore gets chana masala, golden corn mixed tuna meal from Goody, and Zen is like Arabic food, the chicken tikka masala. So ready to eat meal, there has been a searches growth of 170%. So what are the drivers of new normal? Okay, so these are the drivers for prepared meals. In terms of the three key ones are convenience, health and nutrition, and back to basics. So yes, health and nutrition is the growing one. So coming to convenience, that's what consumers are today looking for. They're looking for time savings, ready in minutes, and simple steps. Right portions is what they are looking for, and today's consumers are looking for, whereas 60% of Indians are seeking convenience, 65% in Middle East are looking for more convenience driven food, where health and nutrition plays a very, very big role. Yes, immunity boosters, plant-based meats are the ones that are driving. And here is an example of K Calories, who's brought in ultimate immune booster trial, which brings in turmeric chicken immune booster shots and power soup. Okay, so what are the flavor trends in prepared meals? Well, we talk about the back to basics, and there are various flavor. Uh, People are looking for newer flavor. While they talk that they should be back to basic, but they are looking for a twist. 79% of Indian consumers who are keen on trying on new flavors periodically are looking for new flavors in the prepared meal, whereas 82% in Middle East looks for the trend for the new flavors. So here is what we are going to showcase you, a short video which will showcase that what are the Griffith solutions while we talk about the various flavors. So here was a short video that we wanted to show that how the meal kit works. And we have tried to use one of our signature product, that is tandoori marinade, as well as we've used our gravy bases to showcase this video. Such videos are more available on YouTube, and you can always view that. So at the end of the meeting, we would share those video links too. Okay, the next thing that we are coming up is that we know that there has been a growing need for the ready-to-cook frozen market in India, and India do strongly believe in it. So what, as an organization, we have come out with a technology called Stay Crisp that helps in keeping the products crisp for a longer period of a time, even when it is being delivered at a place, or if you have to take it out, you have ordered the food, you can keep it, and then you want just to microwave, this product still remains crispy. But we can talk in details with individually of you, which is soon to be launched here. The other thing that we are launching, and keeping in mind that health aspect, it's not always that people would like to have fried items. People are now looking for more bakeable items, and therefore Never Fry is a concept which we, Griffith Foods, are bringing in as a solution also to support this meal kits or the ready meal concepts. So with this, I'm really sorry with the kind of time lag that happened because of certain internet issues here. But I think that is a flare idea that we have of it from the perspective of India and Middle East, how the trends are there. And I will be happy to take questions as and when it's come in. But with this, we will move to our next biggest section, and for which we are all here. So we will now witness what the industry veterans have to say. So it's the time for the panel discussion, and to be led and moderated by our President and MD for India Middle East region, Mr. Dhiren Kanwar. So here are our esteemed panelists, and I would will stop sharing the screen and would request each of them to come on the video, and we can then start with the panel discussion. Okay, so I will now introduce Mr. K.S. Narayan. Mr. K.S. Narayan is strategic advisor and mentor to various food and beverage companies, and of course to a lot of startups, especially now in the space of the meal kit. He has been associated with Unilever's, McCain, Pan India Food Solutions, and many others. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for joining our panel discussions. Moving ahead, we now would like to welcome Mr. Ajay Talwar. He's the founder and MD at Tastel. And with a strong vision, Tastel is one of the largest meal kit or a ready-to-eat, the largest manufacturer, and they export to various countries across the globe. Hi, sir. Welcome.
Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Moving ahead, we now call upon Dr. Jasveer Singh, regulatory, scientific, and government affair leader for South Asia DuPont Nutrition and Bioscience. So we all know that DuPont uses science and innovations to make the world a safer and healthier place to live in. Welcome, Dr. Jasveer.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, we have Mr. Sunay Bhasin, CMO of MTR Foods. Sunay brings in rich experience wherein he has been associated with Britannia, Yum in his past stint. However, MTR Food is now a household name. It's been pioneer in the ready-to-eat breakfast category in the last 96 years. Thank you, Sunay, for joining.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Okay. We now have Mr. Shashi Shadlur. He's the Deputy General Manager for Tasty Bites. Tasty Bite is also part of Mars and has been in India since 1995. Have been exporting more than 30 ready-to-eat and products, I think, and Sunay can throw more light on it, to various other countries. Thank you, Sunay, for joining.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have Mr. Amir Kadri, who's joined all the way from UAE here, and he has been a frozen and chilled fruit processing expert in Middle East market. He has a rich and a dynamic experience in product development, sales relationship in the frozen field, and have been associated with Mamo Foods, IFCO, Al Kabir in the past. Thank you, Mr. Kadri, for joining. Thank you.
My pleasure. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. And with this, I would leave it to Mr. Kanwar to take it ahead.
Thank you, Samita. Thank you for all the introductions. So I have a great panel here. KS, who's also my co-panelist, who's also a very, very renowned, a consultant for the industry now. Thank you, KS, also for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome, Jasveer. Welcome, Ajay. Welcome, Sunay. Welcome, Swashish. And welcome, Amir. Let's think of how the world has changed. And I just don't mean by for the last 4 months. Let's look back a little bit more. For example, banking. A few years ago, we had to go to the bank for every need possible. Today, the same thing can be done by just a visit to the ATM, or mostly on your phones or through the laptop. One doesn't go to the, I don't remember when I went to the branch the last time. The same thing has happened to the entertainment industry. We used to go only to the movie theaters at one point of time. And then there was the television in which we had to watch the shows at the predetermined times that they were telecast. Now, entertainment is at our fingertips. We can see anything, anytime, anywhere. On our mobile phones, on the short screens, anytime. Our consumers are also looking at similar products. In the food industry, and the same thing is, I think, also going to happen to the food industry. As we used to go dine out all the time, now food seems to be coming closer to us all the time. Customers or consumers want the food, they want what they want, when they want, and as they want it. When you look at 3 aspects that is determining the change, the first is people want it fast. They want it on demand, and they want it easy to prepare, easy to serve food. The second is they want the flexibility. They want their taste preference, or they want to adapt the product that they are making or cooking or heating or eating to their taste. And they want it, of course, at the speed of assembly. And the third is they always want it fabulous. They want great taste, and they want health, nutrition, sustainability, the entire package together. So my colleagues here are now are very, very experienced about food, which is either ready to eat or ready to heat or ready to cook or ready to prepare. And we are going to talk about how we are going to help our consumers be more Atmanirbhar. So my first question, Sunay, to you, how is the growth of prepared meals? Has it changed in India? And not just in the last 4 months, over the last few years. How has do-it-yourself or ready-to-eat meals, how has that changed?
So Dhiren, we all know that this category, and as we define it, whether it's ready to cook or ready to eat, has been growing quite well in India. I think the trend has already, was already there. And it's just that the pandemic has sort of accelerated it in that sense. As India urbanizes, as more women get to work, as people sort of in a way, move around within the country, you have a lot of internal migration. The need for convenience and the need to sort of, whether it's ready to cook, ready to eat, was always there. I think if I look over the last, say about 10 odd years, and I think Samita also touched upon it, this is a category which has been actually growing healthy double digits. And, the scope is there everywhere. The scope is, you could have, a lesser convenient and lesser value added to a very high value added. I think the beauty of India is that we have many Indias within India, and there is enough scope and enough room for everybody to sort of come in and really add to that. The pandemic has definitely accelerated the whole thing, as I said, and I think some of the things that you have touched upon are very evident. People, because the homemaker is at home, she has the entire family at home, she's cooking everything at home, and Atmanirbhar pretty much, because the helps are no longer there, the cooks are no longer coming. So she has to do everything herself. So the need for convenience has become even more heightened. And while you touched upon, I think, health, nutrition, I think one of the other big things that we are also observing is the need for indulgence. And again, I think when Bo spoke about it, I mean, that's there. as human beings, you want to change, you seek, some mood upliftment, and there's nothing to go out to. 51% of the consumers, one of your presentations also said, are not going out, but the need is there. Then how do you satisfy that need? So there is a need for indulgence. There's a need to eat healthy. There is a need to sort of prepare multiple things. And some of these are here to stay, as I see it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sunay. Maybe I can ask the same question to Amer. Amer, for the Middle East, how do you think that growth has changed over a period of time for do-it-yourself or ready-to-eat meals in your region?
Well, within the last decade, there has been a major paradigm from frozen to fresh, and consequently with do-it-yourself meal kits. That's primarily due to the change in lifestyle, wherein the economics have dictated that the homemaker then go to, seek a job for themselves. Convenience has been the cornerstone. Fresh or chilled, ready to eat has been increasing at a healthy pace, and it is catching up. Especially during this pandemic where people were at home and movements were restricted, there was a lot of demand, so to speak, for do-it-yourselves or ready-to-eat categories. And it's something that will remain, I feel, especially in Saudi Arabia with the change of political dictates where the woman is going to the workplace. These will definitely add a value in terms of this region.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe back to Sunay. Sunay, what successes do you see in the market? What has worked well for MTR in the last few years? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So I said things that have worked for us are at multiple levels. As I was saying that, I think one of our biggest categories and which is known and renowned sort of globally is the traditional ready-to-eat curries, right? And we lead India in terms of market share. We are one of the largest exporters of that. We have a very good presence in pretty much across the world when it comes to Indian food in that space. So those have been obviously, one of the biggest sort of historical landmarks in terms of, how this category has developed, and so have we. I think over the years, we have expanded and we have widened the scope. Then we also have a lot of these mixes, which are also ready to cook, where, it's a 2-step or a 3-step process, where you can just, take a dry mix, add maybe 1 or 2 ingredients and then cook it, and you'll have a defined outcome in a fairly convenient time. So there is that. That also has seen a lot of success. In fact, when it comes to the South Indian mixes space, I'm proud to say, I think we define the market pretty much across India and again, in the Middle East and some of the other markets as well. And the last one, I think over the last 2-3 years, where we have seen a lot of success is also the dehydrated part, where, we launched something called a 3-minute breakfast portfolio. And we launched poha, upma, halwa and oats in that portfolio, which has seen a tremendous amount of success. And in fact, a lot of examples you guys also shared, we've seen more people come in. And that's growing really at a very, very fast pace. In fact, happy to share that that was also the biggest innovation that we have had within MTR and our parent company, Orkla, in the history of the company. So there are interesting spaces, and they're sort of diverse. Some are absolutely ready to eat, which is almost like you heat and your food is ready. Some are where you just have to not really use any cooking. You just add hot water, as simple as that. Some are where there are some cooking skills required, but there is convenience in terms of, like I think Bo was also saying, it's almost the Indian version of that, where you have a fixed quantity and a very clear, assured outcome if you follow the process, and it's fairly easy. I think success has been seen across, and as I said earlier as well, there is enough scope to really do much more in each of these spheres and more.
But I think the best news in that I see is that the breakfast category is getting impacted so well. I know a lot of companies have struggled with getting some success in the breakfast segment, and congratulations on finding the key to that. That would be it's great news for that. Let's go across to KS. KS, what do you see as the key trends for success in India? How do you see this playing out?
See, the way I look at it is, I think, as Bo suggested, that there was meal kit 1, meal kit 2, meal kit 3, and now we are looking to meal kit 4. As I think as the pandemic has hit us, what I see is literally 1, 2, 3 all combined and launched as 4 in India. That really has happened, and I can see that in action across the board. And I have numerous examples which one can share. But I think also, as Sunay was mentioning, we need to, in India at least, I mean, that's where I think I have more experience and I can share that with more confidence, is that we have to look at it as a continuum. One is very clearly, yes, it's readily available. It could be ambient, frozen or chilled. You just heat and eat. To at different stages of intermediation, that I would say. So like some of them, what you shared in terms of the video, where you give a certain a mix, a marinade, a gravy, etc., and then certain dishes are cooked. Or it could be, so the same thing can be done in an ambient form. Something can be done, you club it with fresh vegetables and fresh meat, etc. Or next, going forward as well, you go ahead and say that I will provide you the dry ones, you add the fresh from your side. And that's when the whole thing, as we Bo again suggested, in terms of personalization, etc., consumers can come in. So I see the entire spectrum at play in India as we speak. And I will say stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all come in together at one go. So to give some examples, for instance, when we look at it, we've got, say, for instance, a dry biryani kits which are available. There's a certain amount of rice, there's some whole spices and a mix which is there. You add your vegetable, chicken, paneer, whatever else which is there at your end, you cook and you get a fairly, as Sunay mentioned, a predictable end dish that is possible. So that from that extent to today, we've got a completely fresh kit available. All you do is to order within 2 hours, it gets delivered to you along with the vegetables, the gravies, the garnishings, all of that which is also available. And last but not the least, I will say is that the restaurants, because they've got affected with their in-home dining, all of that getting affected. So they've gone in with a vengeance into deliveries. There, it's more a case of just assembly, where whether it's a Thai dish to a European continental, whatever it is. So they end up giving you virtually the entire prepared meal kit. It's for you to sit and assemble. And last but not the least, I think it's also in terms of pleasure and indulgence. Today, I also see in your own Bangalore market, I see ice cream sundae kits. You get the whole ice cream, you get a sauce, chocolate sauce or the different sauces, you get cakes and the garnishings to go with it. You make your own sundaes at home. So I think what this has really happened is that I think this has sort of fueled the creative juices across the sector segment, and I see this whole thing sort of taking off and building momentum. Yes, there is challenges in terms of back-end supply chain, all that is certainly there. But I guess using an omni-channel model of online, offline, mix of all that, right blend of it, different cities, different options. And so that way there are numerous options which are possible, which is sort of seeing that going forward. I mean, that clearly is what I see it. And clearly, this is something which is going to stay because people are at home and they seek variety. So what they are clearly seeking for, and this is something which again came through with various interactions, etc., is that dishes which are complex to make, dishes which are difficult to make at home or traditionally been made in restaurants, if can be made at home in a more convenient manner, I think that it's a much bigger green tick. So I think that's where possibly one needs to work on and try and see how you can deliver that.
That's great news. So what you said is that the speed of evolvement in the Indian market has been much faster than any other market.
Yes.
And this is here to stay because it's not just because of COVID, not just because of the situation right now. It's the adaptability that people are adapting to this model.
Correct.
And therefore finding it successful, and then it will stay for the consumer.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Let's go over to Ajay. Ajay, you export meal kits to many, many countries around the world. What do you see as the international innovations? What is happening new there, and what is it that are the trends that you are seeing?
Yeah, hi. Last 7 years, we have been manufacturing meal kits and meal solutions for the international market, going to stores like Walmart, Costco, and different supermarkets. A lot of innovation has happened in the last couple of years, where the trends from different cuisines have grown. We have done a lot of Indian food, and after that, we have done a lot of Asian food. So Asian food is one of the most demanding category which has grown. After that, Mediterranean and even Italian. So the solutions are basically 3 or 4 packets going into a pack and do-it-yourself kits at home. We see the trends growing further. We have done a lot of innovation as far as health and nutrition is concerned, because we feel this category of health and nutrition has been growing, and a lot of developments with added protein and different combinations of quinoa, chia, and other even jackfruit. This kind of combinations have been growing in last couple of years, and more innovation is coming into, like, more offerings into bowls, where you have a salad bowl. People want to have healthy meal. So, and also the organic sector, which I believe for us has been growing. Organic food slowly and steadily has been growing in the past 2 to 3 years, and in categories of ready to serve and also in meal kits categories. So I believe more and more innovation is required, and the challenges we face is normally in India is to get certain ingredients to satisfy the needs of international markets. But that supply chain has been set by us by working hard with suppliers around the world. But the Asian food, the Mediterranean, the growth has been great in few years.
Super, super. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It does also underline what Bo showed us earlier as part of the evolvement. As for the convenience, people are looking at a 3-step or a 4-step maximum process to cook something and make it faster.
Yeah.
Super. Maybe to ask Sashish. Sashish, you also export a lot of meal kits out of India to other countries. How do you see the innovations and the changes which have happened, and what is making it successful in countries like US, Canada, other places that you are exporting?
Right. So, so I think the meal kits has been a fairly developed category, if you look at overseas markets where people, have an inclination of understanding how to use the meal kits, whether it's to, nascently, I mean, it's been kind of done with the Mexican kits earlier, where people could assemble a taco or a burrito at home easily. Now that trend has kind of shifted slowly and steadily towards other cuisines as well, where people in the US have started becoming more adventurous because the palates are changing. I mean, people at some point of time were considered to have only a bland palate in the US, whereas that now has kind of moved to a palate where they are becoming more adventurous, trying new cuisines. Like Korean is on trend in the US. Asian food is rising, so is Indian food. And with that, what's happening is people are also trying to experiment. I mean, they want to understand what's a biryani. I mean, how does a biryani kit work? For example, they'll understand what a basmati rice is, and how does the masala taste, and how do the spices work? What's the functionality of that? So I think all that is creating a buzz around the whole system, where people want to get the new flavors. Similarly with Asian or like a bibimbap bowl kit. I mean, you get all the ingredients of a bowl together and then you assemble it at home. And I think that's kind of the new flavors that people are wanting to experiment. Like in the US especially, where people are so particular in planning their entire days and even their meals to a larger extent. I mean, it's like a pantry on the world cuisine is on their shelf and on their pantries there. So I mean, today it could be a taco night, tomorrow could be a noodle night, a Friday could be a curry night. So basis that, I think the experimentation phase in the Western countries is at a different level altogether. And I see that trend, slowly and steadily coming into India, especially with, and COVID has been, great influencer for that. And where people have, the work from home factor has become such an important key thing where, everybody's at home now. And as somebody mentioned earlier that, with the maid or the house help not being there, the gender reversal roles have also happened to a larger extent. Now it's no more that the lady of the house is doing only the cooking. It's the man of the house also is kind of working together to ensure that maybe and they're dividing days. I mean, 3 days somebody else cooks, somebody and cooks now. So I think all that all those factors are coming together, and everything is kind of falling in place from a meal kit perspective or the convenience perspective. And added to that, to what Ajay said, I think the health and nutrition aspect is becoming more and more crucial in that range as well.
We are going to touch upon that. We are going to touch upon that in a little bit more detail going ahead. But I want to come to Amar. Amir, how do you see the innovations in Middle East? Is there something specifically which is being innovated, which is taking the industry ahead there? Is more successes coming there?
It's most of the successes in recent past have been specific to cuisines, especially in the UAE. It's about the paradigm in terms of demographics of a certain, there's a cross section of population. We see a growing trend in, let's say, the Filipino cuisine of noodles like pancit and dishes such as that. Further, the cuisines where earlier it was not accessible, like Korean, as one of the panelists mentioned. There are trends that come in phases and waves, and that's how it rolls. But definitely a big change in terms of people trying more cuisines and not just sticking to the local or the Chinese.
Local cuisines.
That's been the trend in the recent past. Yes,
that's very interesting. So we see internationalization to some extent and growth of other cuisines, and as Ashish also said, the growth of Indian cuisine in other Western markets as well.
Yes.
Let's see if that is different here in India. And my regionalization of taste here in India, that people are looking for authentic products, people are looking for very specific regional dishes, and are wanting to go back to basics at this point of time. So KS first and Sunay.
Yeah, I think the way I am seeing it and how the market is evolving, I think it is working on, I will say on literally three dimensions. First and foremost is, yes, going back to roots, back to basics. So some of the no fuss dishes, it could be a khichdi to a biryani to all of that. So in terms of, so that is something which is also driving consumption and driving people there. There is also, as we see, the skill levels are a little lower, availability of ingredients is a challenge. So I guess meal kits provides a good predictable outcome of a standard dish, and which goes back to the roots. So that is clearly one which is there. At the same time, I would also say that people are seeking variety at the same time. So what you used to do is to maybe whatever, once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, whatever, used to go to a restaurant and eat that type of a cuisine food which was there. Now that option having been shut down for the last 3, 4, 5 months. So as a result of which, the solutions in that space as well, it could be making a pasta easily at home, to a noodles, to a Thai, or whichever cuisine that we look at, the Middle East or the Mexican, etc. So those solutions are also sort of driving, which is there. And the last one is also, I think, any of those things which are far more complex to make, and that is where which includes, I will say, going a step beyond just food, even in the whole desserts and beverages area. I think I would cover the entire food as food, complete food and beverages,
full plate,
from starters to right up to the end of beverages. Even there, so we are seeing a huge surge in baking. People are baking at home, and hence they need solutions. Many of them have never baked in their life. Many don't have an oven at home. So again, people are coming out with options of cooking on using a pressure cooker, using a microwave solution, so on and so forth. So I'm just saying that it's literally exploding in all directions. So we'll have to see as to where is it that you have the core competence in, where is it that you have better insights on, and then sort of go and develop that niche. I think scratch the surface and start digging deeper. I think that's the way I would really look at it.
Perfect. Let's look at how MTR has done that. So Sunay,
so
the regionalization, but also if you want to touch upon the use of what we call super grains or natural seeds, millets, other grains, is that something that you see also being used?
See, I think regionalization is not a new thing for India. First of all, okay. There is a big notion, which is basically a Western notion of something called an Indian food. There is nothing called an Indian food. And that's India, we tend to paint India with one brush, and, we look at anything which is a lentil base to a chicken masala to whatever butter chicken, and we call it Indian. But you look around in India, right? Your breakfast will be different from my breakfast. Your lunch will be different from my lunch. Our familiar territory, each one of us on the panel, is a very different territory. Yeah. So depending on where you've been brought up, what you've been exposed to, where is your ethnicity in terms of, regional or whatever, it all defines where you are. So honestly, when you say regionalization, it's always been there in India. I think KS touched upon it. It's about inciting and finding solutions which sort of resonate strongly with the consumers, right? And I think in my experience, I think one big mistake we tend to make is look at India with sort of a single lens and, so define that. Having said that, I think, and when you really see, there is also a growing need for, a healthier option, or I would say possibly eating well option. We are sort of, and we are in the phase as a country, that is again one trend where we are rediscovering some of the gems of the past, right? And millets happens to be there. It's right there. It's coming up. Has it become absolutely mainstream? Maybe in some regions it was always mainstream, but other parts of India may be rediscovering it and saying that, why do I have to look at maybe something which is like a quinoa, or, look at something outside when I have something which is as good as millets at home.
Brilliant.
So there is again, depends on your familiarity, depends on what you are, sort of exposed to. And then I think what KS touched upon are my thoughts as well, in the sense, the way I look at it is there are three buckets for all of us to sort of look at. One is the traditional bucket, whatever you name it. The second one is, the exploration bucket, which is where he was, talking about the fact that you need to step out, you need to go to a restaurant and you explore, right? I go to an Italian restaurant, I explore, and I sort of enjoy. I feel there is a shift in terms of what I'm eating. I explore pasta, I explore a pizza, I explore something else. Then there is the experimentative, and which is what he was also talking about, right? So experimentation is absolutely out there, where I don't know how to do this, but somebody talked about it, or I discovered something on the internet, or I, some friend of mine who went to Mexico came back and talked about something, and then I search for it. I've never done it. But now there is a desire because of the internet, because of digitization, digital penetration. This is all there, right? So everything again is up here, and like my previous question, and I may sound very cliche, everything is there in India. That's the beauty of India, and that's why there are so many Indias in India, that you can actually look at different insights, different TGs, do different solutions, and still have a relevant market to succeed in.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sunay. And before Dr. Jasveer says that I've been ignoring him, I've kept a couple of very nice questions for you, Jasveer. So Jasveer, help us understand how we know that taste is important, but there's also the concern about health in the segment, about eating, be it ready to eat food or ready to prepare food. How is it that this is being addressed in this segment?
So thanks, Dhiren. I think one of the challenges with this whole notion of health is that this idea itself keeps on shifting places. The idea of health that we have had while we were growing up is very different from the idea of health that a nutrition scientist of today thinks about. So, I mean, my generation grew up on Dara Singh ads saying the Desi ghee is the best, and today almost every nutrition scientist will say that's not the case. So, it's always debatable on what constitutes health in the minds of nutrition scientists versus the minds of consumers. But for the time being, when if I focus purely on the nutrition scientists part, globally there has been a much greater push towards addressing these concerns around meals or foods in general, and what degree of contribution do they make to a healthy lifestyle. In certain Western societies, because the consumption levels of these processed foods is much higher, the concern also displays it in a proportionate manner over there compared to India. But it's not that the concern in India is not rising, both at consumer levels as well as in the minds of regulator. So as of now, what we are seeing is that the regulatory agencies as well as other government agencies, they are in this phase of engagement with industry to find the best way forward. Because there are certain approaches which have been tried and tested in certain geographies of the world. Local industry does not believe that those approaches are best suited for Indian conditions. That debate is still going on, but there are various options on the table, like putting up some sort of punitive marking on the products which are not considered as healthy by nutritionists by virtue of its higher levels of say fat or salt or saturated fat or any of those areas of concern. So right now what is happening as an engagement and a gentle nudge will definitely shift into some policy action frameworks if industry does not shift its own approach from what is being seen as voluntary actions towards those areas where government will be forced to push them towards certain directions, that you have to reduce fat levels or salt levels by this percentage over this period of time. So that's a debate which is happening. We are yet to see a closure to that as of now.
Thank you. Just to write on that, so are there any specific regulations? These are something which are already existing, but are there any new regulations that we are looking forward to which will either aid the growth of this market or hinder the growth of this market?
Well, one area where people do have a lot of concern is around this labeling regulation with respect to labeling foods with say red or some kind of a mark in case the nutrients are not what are desirable from a health perspective, which is probably going to become part of the labeling regulation going forward. And a lot of industry is worried about the kind of impact that it will have on consumer behavior or consumer preferences. And specifically, the challenge becomes much bigger in case of India, because what potentially can happen is that we are into processed foods which are packaged. Right. So we will have to label them as per the law. Whereas there's a huge set of products which are available in an unpackaged form where there is no label. So when a consumer will see this processed packaged food with a negative label, there is a potential that a shift in consumption behavior towards those unpackaged foods will happen, which are actually even more unhealthy compared to these processed foods and even more unsafe compared to these processed foods. So that is one of the big areas of concern as of now.
But that's the fear.
Yeah.
The enablement could also be on the flip side that innovations which are taking place in the food industry allow for a no preservative, a clean label
Yes.
approach for developing these products. Do you see that
Yes.
happening? Is that something that you
So,
see happening?
Yeah, recently a new regulation in India has been already notified around claims where some of these areas have been addressed that if you want to make such a claim as no preservative or no added additive, I mean, what are those conditions that you have to meet? So those are kind of regulatory developments which actually help those companies which do their due diligence when they really want to make a consumer communication around these areas. So those developments have also happened. A very detailed guideline if you want to make a claim whether your product is low in fat or in salt or in any other such attribute are also available now, which were not available earlier. These developments are happening in India. And even otherwise, some of these global reference points like Codex standards are available, which industry can always refer to as a voluntary practice in case of making these responsible communications.
So let's ask the industry. So Ashish, you have been developing products on clean label for quite some time, and that's something that you demand out of your suppliers also, is for products which can aid a clean label finished product. How do you see that happening? How do you see the demand for that growing?
So from a Tasty Bite perspective, Dhiren, Tasty Bite has always had this policy of making clean label and no added preservative foods for a very long time now. And also in the fact that while we are into two streams of business, which is the branded business and then there's the food service business, the branded business typically has always been without any additives or preservatives. And I think it's been a journey over a period of time where, having no preservatives and clean labels are in two different directions. I mean, it's easy to make a packaged food without adding preservatives, but does it necessarily become clean label? No, I mean, you could still add a lot of e-number products in it and it still could not be clean label. So I think that's a journey that we are kind of working on with all the suppliers, including Griffith as well, to understand how we can make that journey, where I think the onus is between all the players, including the processors and all the manufacturers of raw materials as well, to understand how we can journey on that path to kind of ensure that everything that we do today is from a consumer health perspective. And at Tasty Bite, we always say that we will not put anything in the packet that we will not put in our own mouth. So anything that we do like preservatives or additives and e-numbers definitely are out. So I think with that angle, we also rely a lot on our vendors and actually, we try and force them at many a times to, try and cooperate with us and ensure that we do not use any e-numbers or preservatives into any of the products, even as a carryover. So kind of that's the approach that we take, and we've been, I think, fairly successful, over a period of time for that.
I know we are running out of time. This is such interesting conversation. Maybe we can squeeze in two small questions. One to you, Ajay. Ajay, on the same level, what are your customers asking for in different countries as well as in India? Are they also looking at clean label? Are they also looking at healthier alternatives?
Yeah. See, our whole innovation bench has been towards the kind of customers we have. They look for low sodium parameters, which is very critical in Europe. They are customers where we don't do any additives. That's why organic food, where what we are manufacturing, also all fresh food. There are no additives at all. Most of the sauces we manufacture also are now mostly clean, because this is a demand of the customers internationally. And the growth of this category has been growing year by year, and the demand from the supermarkets and the customers internationally has been towards no additives and no preservatives. It's mostly process-driven foods where you can manufacture and sustain. So sustainability has come into a big question mark with all the processes in place. Health and nutrition, that's why I say, is very, very important, And most of the customers where our products are going, they are looking at the nutrition panels, they're looking at the ingredients, they're looking at what has been added. And 95% of foods what we manufacture are without any E numbers also.
Yeah.
So I think this has been a trend for the last 7 years.
Part B of that question was related to what exactly you touched upon. People are looking for transparency. Do they also look at sustainable sourcing, raw materials which are sustainable, also which are included in your products?
Yes. I think most of the demand from the supermarkets are coming on social compliances, going backward with the ingredient supply. And a lot of work has to go back in India. India, we have a lot of challenges going back with suppliers and auditing them and looking at their compliances also on supply chain. So the authenticity of supply, which is we are working on for a long time. I think that this is more demand created on sustainability, on even on packaging now. Which products you can use which are compostable, which kind of packaging you can use is 100% recyclable, what kind of inks you are using on packaging. So there's a lot of I think inputs we have got from the markets, and we've tried to gel in looking at what kind of the BPO free packaging or not. So suppose a food which you're manufacturing for baby food is very you have to be very careful with what kind of ingredients you're using, what kind of process you're going, and what kind of packaging you're using. So I think something with ready to serve food and the ready to eat, the meal kit categories, a lot of defining has come and a lot of changes are happening in the last 2 years. I think demand has been going towards more and more clean label and more transparency in what we are doing. Yeah.
So last word to Sunay. Sunay, last word on this. Sustainability, something which is being appreciated more and more. Are we going to see it in India? And especially related to, maybe that's one of your customer bases, the millennials. How are they, how do you see their needs evolving with regards to sustainability? Are they brand loyal? Are they looking for innovation? So specifically on millennials, what is the behavior with regards to this industry?
So Dhiren, sustainability is a growing trend, I would say. People are becoming more and more aware. I think India is still a little behind, the rest of the world, or maybe the Western world, I would say. But there is definitely a growing need, and all of us, and we take cognizance of that. And as a responsible we have already started taking actions. It's not just necessarily what you put out. That is obviously a very clear thing, but even in terms of how you work, right? So it's not just the product, but even the back end. I mean, we are very cognizant of, so 60% of our power consumption happens through solar. We are already there. We have a zero water waste policy. We are now looking to actually move to complete sustainable packaging over the next, say, 1 year or so. So we are already working on that, and it's not just consumer facing straight, but even in terms of how we work, we are always sort of innovating on how we can reduce our carbon footprint, across our processes. But yes, millennials are more cognizant of that. They do want to know, what they are buying. Is it what it is perceived to be? And I think today, in a day and age when everybody is digitally connected, you cannot, I would say you cannot take anybody for a ride, for want of a better word, right? You have to be absolutely out there, and you have to be transparent in terms of what you are putting out, what you're doing. And in a way, what we are really doing is sort of imbibing this as a part of our daily life. It's not just regulatory driven. It's not just, it's something that we owe to the society. So that's the lens that, again, we look at this thing through. Millennials are very particular. They have much higher demands out of any brands that they consume. And if you're able to sort of measure up to their expectations, then you can command loyalty. Otherwise, you will always see sort of a leaking bucket, because they are constantly on the lookout. Innovations are a key part. You need to continuously innovate, need to keep, you need to keep up with the trends. And that's how it is. Did I answer your question, or did I miss out on something?
No, absolutely. This was spot on.
Okay.
they're looking for innovation, the right kind of innovation. They're looking at transparency. They're looking at sustainability. So given a choice, if you were to put the story of a sourced product, maybe a spice in your mixes, which come and give the story of the farmer who has made this or grown this, and it is in your product, would that be something that you would be willing to look at?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely,
Wonderful.
I think.
So I know I'm getting reminders here that we are way over our time, but this has been fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. Each one of you have been fantastic in your answers, and I'm sure our audience has loved it. So thank you so much. Back to Samita. My apologies, Samita.
No, absolutely fine. I think it was a great, the kind of goof-ups that has happened in between. So this was a cherry on the cake. So there are few questions. I think now we can take 4 to 5 questions if we are okay. And then the rest of the questions, we can write it back to all the audience, individually to the audience too. So we can take 3 questions. So if you can see the Q&A.
Yeah, I have, Samita, I've tried to get the questions within the questions that I was asking. I think the aspect is only if we are looking at any dominant age groups for the functional bucket who dominate the exploration bucket and the experimentation. What is the dominant age group which is, let's say, influencing this behavior?
Yeah, so let me try and answer that. I think I spoke about that part. See, if you look at it traditionally, you will see the functional bucket being possibly the most dominant in the slightly older age groups. Slightly older age groups, I would say they are more rooted. But having a definite age group is not really the thing that we are noticing now. I think there's a lot of fluidity across, right? One of the other things is that, a lot of new consumers, we call the so-called millennials or urban millennials, they are also actually seeking a big sort of need being fulfilled through the functional bucket. So it's not just the bucket that exists, but if I were to say in terms of who are influencing these people, one, of course, big influences are their own families, right? What they are brought up, friends and families, the environment that they are brought up in. Then the other thing is, of course, the environment around you, the experiences that you get through, the kind of restaurants that you have visited, maybe, if you've traveled somewhere, something you may have come across. A lot of experimentation is purely being driven out of, the digital space. A lot of cookery shows, a lot of the Instagram generation where everybody wants to just click something which is very unique, very differentiated, not seen before. So a lot of experimentation really is happening in that space. So in a way, broadly, if I were to say it, yes, more experimentative audience is the younger audience. But again, I would say a lot of it is dependent on, where you are, what you are exposed to. And in a way, a little bit of it exists everywhere, but more dominant experimentative audience is the younger audience. More dominant functional audience will be slightly older.
One concern is that this is, the home heat, eat, cook, prepare kind of industry is going to impact the restaurant industry, that it might negatively impact that people will not go out as much. Amir, maybe you can answer this in a more developed market like the Middle East that you see. Has that happened, or what is the impact of this industry?
I don't see a significant cannibalization in terms of market share going from one silo to the other, being that of your home meal kits to, let's say, losing out on the HoReCa side of the business. It is more about the evolution that perhaps food service would have to take in terms of adapting to the level of cannibalization that meal kits will take. But definitely in both segments, I feel there should be maturity in terms of evolving your own offerings, be it you a food service provider or transcending, migrating from just a dine-in kind of concept to perhaps offering an online meal kit option wherein you basically secure your market share, and the issue doesn't happen that you have lost market share because of that. But it's very specific in terms of even eating habits within Middle East. If you look at it, the number of outlets to population ratio is one of the highest in the world. And with that kind of plenitude, definitely everyone has to seek a size of the pie. That's the way I see it.
I think there's some figures around it as well of the frequency of eat out versus bought out.
Yes.
Food, that number of that you're cooking yourself at home versus this, and that number has been increasing exponentially, especially in the developing markets. So which shows that people are ready to experiment, they are ready to try different things, while they continue to visit restaurants and gain inspiration from there. They will also come back and try some of these dishes.
What I've seen is the impact of the pandemic has sprung a paradigm in terms of the footfall into dine-in towards that of people preparing meals at home. Right. That fear factor has contributed to the escalation in terms of using meal kits or whatever the derivatives be that are available in the market. So it is, it is left to whoever plays within that realm of do-it-yourselves or whatever, whether they can capitalize on this shift and keep it consistently growing. Right. And of course, on the other side, on the flip side of it, the operator would try as much as possible to have the influx of customers come in again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's all the questions I think we had time for. Thank you so much for joining in. It was amazing. Samita, over to you for closing. You are on mute, maybe?
Oh, yes. Thank you once again on behalf of Griffith Foods team. It was a lovely webinar, 1.5 hours, and we don't know from where time flew. It was a great experience, and I'm sure our audience really loved it. Thank you, audience, for being such a lovely audience and being around. We would now request each and one of you to, there is a link which is being sent by my colleague Abhishek on the chat box. Please do share your feedback. It's a feedback link, because we would also like to know, and so that we can do it in a better way, webinar for the next one, that is upcoming webinars. Also post this by tomorrow, by 8th, you will be receiving the link of this webinar along with the videos. So yes, that's it from my side. Thank you for your time and patience. Please do click on the link and share your feedbacks. It will just take 2 minutes of yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samita, for hosting this. And yes, we are hosting more seminars, more webinars almost every month. Please look out on our social media pages, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. You will see, and Instagram, and you will see the links for these webinars.
Absolutely.
Have a super evening, and enjoy what you're going to cook or eat tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the social media links will follow into the message box, so you can see that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.